You want healthy, glowing skin, but with all the products, trends, and conflicting advice, it's hard to know what actually works. I understand. I am Dr. Tina Meder, a former cardiologist and specialist in the skincare development and cosmetic safety expert. I've spent years studying the science of skin. Welcome to Meder Beauty podcast, where we uncover what really matters, break down the science, and give you real expert-backed skincare advice. Whether you're looking to achieve radiant, healthy skin, curious about anti-aging, or want to understand what's really in your product, you are in the right place. Rooted in science and the truth about what your skin actually needs, we'll have in-depth conversations with leading dermatologists, medical experts, and skincare brand founders to bring you the latest innovations, evidence-based insights, and industry secrets that truly make a difference. We are so happy you are here. So let's go. Hello, dear listener of our podcast, The Skin We Live In. I have a great news for you. The cosmetic penetrates into the skin. And today I am planning to discuss how it does it. Actually, that's a fine question because there are so many people who don't believe that cream can penetrate to the skin ever. I heard so many times questions like, does it right? How peptides can penetrate into the skin? How moisturizer can go further than the skin surface? Some people, they think paradoxically that expensive cosmetic penetrates into the skin and non-expensive cosmetic is not capable to do it at all. And also, obviously, it is a question. What is the meaning of transdermal patch? Are they better than creams or serums? And finally, could creams, serums, and the skincare replace injections? So let's see together. I can promise you that at the end of this episode, you will know what the rule of 500 Dalton is. You will understand how and what can penetrate into the skin, what enhancers do and what enhancers are, and where the risk lie. Probably the most important thing for me, being the cosmetic safety expert, I still keep this mindset of cosmetic safety. So, let's start from the skin barrier. As our skin is protected from the external world, and the external environment can be quite hostile for our skin. So it is a good thing that our skin is not 100% permeable. Skin is the first defense and the last barrier between our body and pathogens, our body and air, our body and toxins from the air. Literally, our body and outer world, the frontier is the skin. And the skin has a natural permeability to some substances, but this natural permeability is quite low. Why it is good? Because if not, you will take a bath and will be swollen in the 5 minutes. How skin barrier works? We have 3 main layers which are significant for our skin barrier's function. First layer, which we call stratum corneum, it is the more superficial layer of the skin and it is our first defense line. Stratum corneum is very important, but it is very thin. The thickness of the stratum corneum is about 10 microns in the healthy situation. So healthy young skin has a stratum corneum of 10 microns thickness. But if you're a little bit more aged, if your skin has been damaged by the ultraviolet, by sun rays, very probably then your stratum corneum layer will be much thicker because when skin is exposed to the damaged external condition, it's tried to seek itself. It's tried to build more and more of keratin, kind of brick and mortar structure. So when the healthy skin has a stratum corneum of 10 microns, the sun-damaged skin can build this defense of 80 or 90 or even 100 microns of the skin. And as you guess, it influences the permeability of the skin because when the first defense line is much thicker, all kinds of substances will penetrate onto the skin with much more difficulty. The second line of defense, called epidermis, it's superficial layer of the skin, and actually the stratum corneum makes a part of the epidermis. It is a superficial layer of the epidermis, but we have 4 other layers, and all together they make the thickness of 100 microns. Also, it's not huge. You can go through this 100 microns layer. But once again, remember, if your skin was severely damaged by the ultraviolet or air pollution, or you're experiencing some age-related changes of the skin, it can be thicker, probably twice thicker. And finally, we have dermis. And in the dermis, we have capillary network. We don't have any capillary, any microcirculations in the epidermis or stratum corneum area. But in the dermis network, we have blood circulating, we have lymph circulating. So this layer is much thicker, it's better moisturized, and the thickness of at least this part of the dermis, which we call papillary dermis, it's under 200 microns. And the circulation here, it's very dense. But that's not all, because on the skin surface, we have some appendage, like hair follicles, sebum glands, sweat glands, and they work as elevator, going into the skin deep. And when some substances from the skin surface just fall down in the appendage of the skin, it can go through the skin deepest layer much quicker. But our skin is well protected from the water-soluble substances. However, these water-soluble substances could travel via sweat glands, and sometimes, at least partially, via hair follicles. All fat-soluble substances, all lipids can travel relatively easily via hair follicles and sebum glands onto the skin. Also, when the skin is oily, when sebum glands are open, when your pores are large, it means that your skin is more permeable, at least for lipids. Because all these fat-soluble substances, when they fall down in the large pore, they travel deep. And it can be quite difficult to stop them. So the skin barrier works as a barrier, but it is very selective. And once again, it is a good thing. It will stop most of irritants, it will stop most of allergens, microbes, and even toxins. And without the skin barrier, we will be so much exposed to the hostile environment, then very probably we cannot live a long life. In newborn babies, in the babies of the first age and the very early age of their life, their skin is much more permeable. It's less protected. So you should be much more careful with everything applied on the skin, including baths. Actually, it is not such a good idea to put a few drops of essential oil in the bath if you give the bath to your children, because essential oils can travel to their body and can act systemically. Also, it is not a good idea to add some chemical substances in the baby bath. Only thing which they marked by the children cosmetic or safe for baby. And even with market products, I will be very careful. As a mother or as a doctor and as a cosmetic safety expert, honestly, I don't recommend to add anything except for water or substances recommended by the medical professional in the bath of children until they're 3 years old, at least. Same thing with cosmetic which you apply on the baby skin. Remember, the baby skin is very permeable, so it's never a good idea to apply on the baby skin something which was not created for the baby skin. So please be careful. Never apply any types of adult cosmetic on the skin of your baby. Our skin barrier is very selective. It's created as kind of brick and mortar. When bricks, there are dead cells of our skin called keratinocytes. When they travel to the skin surface, they lose a lot of structure there and they represent very dry envelope. But these hundreds and thousands of dry envelopes glue to each other by skin lipids. And our skin can produce a lot of lipids. Different types of lipids, ceramides, produced by skin cells, but also some part of lipids. The production will be induced by our microbiome, and they can be really digested, hydrolyzed by the microbiome as well. But the biggest producer of the skin lipids, which creates this skin barrier mantle, they are sebum glands. Our sebum glands, they are producing the very specific substance, which we call sebum, and which many people don't like, especially people with an oily skin. Sometimes people suffering from an acne, the skin oiliness, they see the sebum like something hostile, like an enemy. But you should see the sebum as your best friend. It is a protected substance which is produced by your sebum glands regularly, and after it comes on the surface of the skin, is digested by the friendly skin bacteria living in our skin microbiome on the skin surface. And these bacteria, when they digest these nice lipids of the skin, they transform this lipid in the less viscous form, creating this transparent, friendly, protecting lipid-based film covering your skin as a veil. And this veil has also an antioxidant properties. So it protects your skin not only from the evaporation of the water, because what keeps the water on the skin surface? If you don't have lipids or if you are deficient in lipids, the water will evaporate and the skin will be dry. But also, these lipid films contain so much of antioxidants, then it protects you from toxins, from free radicals, and also partially from the ultraviolet. So, to keep your sebum glands functional, to keep your skin well hydrated, it is very important. So, it is very important to care about your skin lipids and to keep your skin, let's say, slightly oily. We have different kind of lipids on the skin surface. 3 types of them, and most important types, which you should know. They are fatty acids. They are produced by the skin, but also we can use different kind of cosmetic products of skincare based on fatty acid, because fatty acid creates a composition of vegetable oils. So when you apply the product based on vegetable oils, you apply fatty acids on your skin. Another type of lipids, it is a cholesterol. Cholesterol, it is a cyclic form of lipids, more stable and very important to create the proper protection of the skin. Cholesterol is produced by our body. Cholesterol, probably you heard about it in the context of different kind of cardiac disease, because when you have too much of cholesterol circulating in your blood, it can create a problem for your heart, for your capillaries, for your vessels. But when you have cholesterol on your skin, it is good because it is protecting. To synthesize this cholesterol, we need animal fat arriving to our body. So to get well-protected skin, you need to eat not only vegetable oils, but it is a great idea to eat the fish, to eat meat, and to eat butter, if you support it well. And the third type of lipids, they are ceramides. Ceramides, they are a very specific chain of lipids, which has not only protective function, but also they smooth the skin texture, and they play partially the antibacterial protecting role, and they are anti-inflammatory. In the young age, we have a lot of ceramides on our skin. Our skin sebum glands, our skin cells, they're producing a lot of ceramides, so skin is well protected, and most of the time it's not irritated. If your body cannot produce enough of ceramides, for example, your skin has some genetic mutation, it leads to the development of atopic dermatitis, which happens to many kids. Fortunately, it is very probable that your kid will, as we say, overgrow atopic dermatitis problem, because at some point their body start to produce the ceramides again. If it doesn't happen, the atopic ceramides with the time can be transformed to eczema or different type of dermatosis, creating a lot of problem in the adult life. And that's why ceramides, they've been such a revolutionary ingredients in the dermatology in the first place, but also in the skincare. Because all types of congenital dryness, all types of the congenital skin sensitivity, atopic dermatitis, eczema, other dermatoses, that can be successfully treated with ceramides-based topical skincare, with ceramide-based moisturizers, and with ceramide-based cream. We cannot create the serum, the ceramides, because ceramides are lipids. Everything which is based on the lipids, it is or emulsion or it is a cream. So serums and different water-based products we are using for different purposes. We can hydrate the skin with serums and water-based product, increasing the amount of the water on the skin surface. But if your skin barrier is impaired, if your skin is too permeable, if the water evaporates from the skin surface, these results will never be long-lasting. So, to hydrate the skin, to moisturize the skin, we need this big trinity: ceramides, fatty acids, and cholesterol. Also, what you should keep in mind, the skin barrier, it's not a passive wall. We have living cells which are keeping this safeguard work. They're like security agent in the skin. These cells named Langerhans cells, and they play for immune system. They constantly patrol the skin surface. They are spotting potential threats. They are triggering the immune system response, and they are trained by your microbiome. So, as you can see, it is complicated. The skin microbiome works together with the physical skin barrier. Sebum glands are producing a lot of lipids. Our sweat glands, they are producing different types, ionized substances. And all together, there are more than 120 substances, more or less involved in the creation of the skin mantle and in the skin protection. And all of this, we need it to protect ourselves from the outer world. Speaking about the microbiome, our skin is colonized for thousands of different strains and types of bacteria. There are billions of bacteria and fungi and viruses which lives on our skin. And all of them together as a community, they form this protective shield, microbial, we call it microbial, despite it is bacterial, fungi, viruses, barrier on the top of the skin. And this barrier going deeper than the skin surface. Because previously we've been thinking that microbes, they are living exactly on the skin surface, but actually they're living deeper, they're living in the stratum corneum. And some of the bacteria, some of the viruses, they are living even deeper in the epidermis. So they occupy the space, they create this kind of colony which protects our skin from different kind of irritation and harm from the environment, including the ultraviolet harm. But if something goes wrong, if this colony is starting to overgrow or starting to be reduced, we can lose the part of our natural protection. So potential pathogens, they cannot stick to our skin mostly because the healthy microbiome protects our skin from the sticking. But we should be very careful in protecting the microbiome, because if your microbiome is unbalanced, if you otherly or using some skincare or because of some circumstances, you destroy the part of your microbiome, it can lead not only to the infection, but also to the skin irritation, to the water evaporation from the skin, the loss of the barrier function of the skin, and finally to the over-penetration of the skin of different types of ingredients. And a lot of people, when I listen to people speaking about the skincare, I notice that very often people think that penetration of active ingredients in the skin, it is always good. More is better. Let's create the environment when everything from the cream can penetrate into the skin. Being a cosmetic safety expert, I am not so optimistic and I am not so positive about it. Penetration of skincare into the skin should be controlled, should be selective, and should be very smart. It is not enough to damage the skin, creating these open door events for everything you apply on the skin, because it can be dangerous. So let's see how we can work to make it smart, to make it safe, and to make it efficient. First of all, we should understand how different substances penetrate into the skin. As I mentioned previously, the stratum corneum, you remember, the thin brick and mortar structure built from the dead cells envelopes with different smart lipids such as ceramides, fatty acid, and cholesterol. They create this 10-micron film on the skin surface. It is very dry. It is keratin rich, so there are a lot of proteins called keratin, and there are a lot of lipids. This structure is almost not permeable for water-rich molecules. So when you go into the bath, you're not sweating. But in the same time, if you apply some water-based serum, even if it would be very expensive serum, very probably it will not penetrate into the skin easily, because for the water-based serum, for the water-based gels, you should create some special condition for your skin, then it's able to take it in, to digest it. What are the factors playing with this condition? How we make substances penetrate into the skin? First of all, what you should know about the skin permeability. The size matters in this situation. It is the rule which was called 500 Dalton Rule. Dalton, it is a unit measuring the molecular weight of the substances, so it's very little, very small. It's much smaller than gram or milligram or microgram. It is molecular measuring unit. 500 Dalton, it is the size of the molecules which is able to penetrate into this dry keratinocyte-based brick and mortar 10 microns layer. These molecules can be water-based, they can be lipid-based. However, for lipids, it's a little bit easier. But when they're small enough, they are going into the skin like a train. What does this mean, small enough? What is small enough? Probably every one of you experienced at least once in your life the back pain or the knee pain. And what do we do when we feel this back pain and some kind of light massage or warming doesn't help? We go to the pharmacy and we buy some painkiller gel or painkiller cream. They contain this anti-inflammatory medication called ibuprofen or Voltaren. And when you apply this cream onto the skin, you mass it lightly, and in 5-7 minutes, you feel better. You feel less of pain. Why? Because this substance penetrated into the skin, traveled through the stratum corneum, epidermis, dermis, underdermis level, muscles, joints, and get into the articulations, making you feeling better because it is anti-inflammatory. That's how it reduces the pain. Why it is able to do this? Because it's small. Ibuprofen and Voltaren, they have this molecular weight about 120, 140 Dalton. But you know what? Niacinamide has exactly the same molecular weight. Caffeine has the same weight. Resveratrol, it's a little bit bigger, 190, but still very small. Retinol is very small as well. So retinol and retinol derivative, they can travel into the deepest skin layer without any problem. Glycolic acid, and by the way, all alpha hydroxy acids like pyruvic acid, ferulic acid, kojic, lactic acid, all of them, they are going through the skin barrier without any problem. Vitamin E travels to the skin without any difficulty. Vitamin C, also the small molecules. So when you apply something containing one of these substances onto the skin, they travel to the skin easier. And to this category of small molecules which are able to travel into the skin deepest layer, we bring recently the science bring peptides as well. And these peptides, it's very funny because the only category of ingredients when you can, I will say, measure the molecular weight without measuring it scientifically, because the molecular weight of peptides is coded in the name of peptides. When you see the name of peptides, you always see this part which name peptide. So, fun fact, if the product called peptide something, but when you go through the list of ingredients and you don't see the name peptides in the list of ingredients, there are no peptides there. And I've been in this situation. I've been asked a few times to evaluate some products, and I evaluated the product of big brands called 3 peptides based on essential oils. There's no peptides at all. So first of all, you look for the word peptide. And before this word peptide, you will see the short part of the word mentioning the amount of amino acid building this peptide, because each peptide, it is a short chain of amino acids linked to each other. When you see D peptide, you know there are 2 amino acids building this peptide. When you see 3 peptide, there are 3 amino acids. When you see tetra, 4 amino acids, penta, 5, hexa, 6. Each amino acid has a molecular weight between 80 until 100 of Dalton. Each amino acid has molecular weight between 80 to 100 of Dalton. So when you see D peptide, there are 2 amino acids inside, so at max the molecular weight of these ingredients will be 200 Dalton. 3 peptide, 300. So literally everything until 6 hexane peptides could penetrate into the skin, not theoretically, in practice. Everything bigger than hexapeptides penetrate into the skin with much more difficulty, and honestly, that's because we don't use in the skincare peptides built from more than 6, 7, at max 9 nonapeptides. They are problematic. But everything like D-peptide, 3-peptide, tetrapeptide, pentapeptide, or hexapeptide, they penetrate into the skin quite easily. And also that's a factor of the lipid tail of peptide. To improve the peptide penetration, they are modified in the laboratory. And to peptides, they stick this tail from the fatty acids, making the penetration easier. So like a little fish, it goes deep. This fatty acid tail called acetyl peptide from specific fatty acid or any other kind of peptide. So you can decipher the name of peptides very easily. So most of peptides, they works really great in the skin, but another good thing about peptides is that they are not acting systemically. They stay in the skin. They act in the deep skin layer, but they never go to the bloodstream. And it is another story with other small molecules. That's why small molecules are so tricky. On one side, we want vitamin C, or we want a retinol go into the deep skin layer. But when retinol from the deep skin layers, very rich in dense in microcirculation, penetrates into the capillary and start to travel via bloodstream, that's why retinol-based skincare is done during the pregnancy, because it can be dangerous for the embryo. So we should be very careful about the type of substances we are using this way. So if the substance is small, we are aware that it can travel to the bloodstream and it can get systemic action. Except of peptides, we are very aware of it. Another parameter of the skin permeability, which we should keep in mind, it is the location. It's like in a real estate. Location matters as much as the size, because in different parts of our body, skin has a different structures. The thickness of the skin is different. The thickness of the stratum corneum is very different. The thinnest part of our body skin located around the eyes, so the same product you apply on the face and on the eye area will penetrate more actively, deeper and fuller into the eye skin. That's why sometimes facial cream, they can be good for the eye area, but in the same time they can be overloading, creating the puffiness and even irritating for the skin in this area. That's why eye area needs a special formulation. Neck skin is also thinner than the face skin, so different type of skincare products that penetrates to the neck skin easier than into the skin of the face, especially on the cheek. If we are speaking about the face, the thicker skin is on the forehead, cheeks, and the lower part of the skin. And another parameters of the skin, it is a time, because skin is more permeable during the night time. So when the skin is sensitive, when the skin is fragile, the same products that you are using during the daytime can be very irritating at night. And actually it happens quite often. And some people are kind of stupefied by this problem because they are not allergic to the cream, right? They're using it during the daytime without any problem. But they are waking up in the morning with an irritated skin. Why? Because this cream is okay during the daytime when your skin acts in the protective mode. And this cream is too much during the nighttime when the skin evaporates more of water, when it is more sensitive, and when it's much more permeable. So remember what matters. Size matters, location matters, and the time matters. Also, in the real life, our skin is not a textbook of the healthy intact skin. When we are speaking about skin permeability, we are speaking about some kind of not always real situation, kind of imaginary friend, healthy skin. So it's our skin how it should be. And in the textbook, all these parameters of the skin were written for the healthy young skin in the age somewhere in between on 25 and 30 years old. But in the real life situation, our skin can be more permeable or less permeable. As I mentioned previously, if your skin is very much sun damaged, it tries to protect itself, building more and more of this brick and mortar structure on the skin. It creates this rough skin structure, which we call sometimes leathery skin. It can be a little bit darker, it would be very thicker, it looks a little bit different, and it's much less permeable. So when you see this leathery aspect of the skin, you should be aware then very probably the skincare designed for the healthy skin will not work properly on these types of skin. It would be much more difficult to make penetrate peptides into these types of the skin, but also vitamins, niacinamide, caffeine, resveratrol, literally everything, to obtain the targeted penetration into the leathery sun-damaged skin. We should use special techniques and probably special products to make it more permeable. On another side, the irritation, the skin damage, over-exfoliation, inflammation of the skin makes skin more permeable. And for example, acne-prone skin is much more permeable than healthy skin because, first of all, large pores, open sebum glands, they are working like huge elevators, which just bring everything which you apply on the surface of the skin into the very deep skin layers, but also air pollutants, toxins, some chemicals, they travel to the skin also much easier. And a lot of people, they just damage their skin barrier by themselves. Overuse of exfoliants, love to chemical peels, love to hydroxy acid-based product, thinning the skin barrier, thinning the protective stratum corneum surface of the skin. Retinol and retinol-based skincare product, they are speeding up skin renewal so much that at some point the skin surface, the stratum corneum of the skin becomes so thin, then the skin becomes over-permeable. And once again, it's easier irritated, even with a product which you didn't have any problem before. And a few words about brushing. Please don't do it to yourself. This extensive brushing using different type of electric brushes or mechanic brushes, Clarisonic, oh my God, Clarisonic created more people with sensitive skin than air pollution in Los Angeles, I believe. So be very careful with this. This exfoliation, this brushing of the skin can be a smart move for the treatment of the leathery, sun-damaged aged skin, but not for the healthy skin, and especially not for the fragile or sensitive skin, and especially not for the skin with acne and rosacea. And as extreme point of self-damage of the skin, increasing enormously the skin permeability, it is a microneedling. And now I see there are a lot of microneedling devices on the market, and I'm really against of self-use of microneedling device. It is dangerous. It damages the skin. It can lead to the scarring. It can lead to the infections. People don't know how to use them. And in the first place, you don't need it because our skin is selectively permeable. You can achieve the penetration of different ingredients into the skin without using needle. Leave needles to professional. We need to help the penetration and to make penetrate some ingredients with a molecular weight bigger than 500 Daltons. We have a special approach which calls enhancing of the penetration. Enhancer, they are chemical substances or physical techniques or physical methods which helps to increase the permeability of the skin. So they are literally enhancing the penetration of skin ingredients into the skin. Speaking about the physical approach, physical methods, they are quite easy. Everything which makes some kind of hole into the skin enhances the penetrations of all types of substances applied on the recently, freshly damaged skin. So microneedling, abrasion, dermoabrasion using different types of machine, laser, even soft laser, they are resurface the skin, they create this thermal-induced trauma, which induces and enhances the penetrations of active substances applied on the skin later. So when you are leaving the clinic, after chemical peels, or after abrasion, or after microneedling, your skin is much more vulnerable it can be easier damaged even by the air pollution. Also, it is an ultrasound, radiofrequency ablation. It can be use of different type of electric currents, like microcurrent therapy, also increases the penetrations of active ingredient into the skin. Iontophoresis, different methods. It could be thermophoresis, using thermo energy. It could be magnetophoresis, which is used not very often, but still, the method exists. All of them are used to influence the skin in different level, stimulate skin cells and whatever, but also everything applied after such of a procedure will penetrate into the skin deeper. It can be good if practitioner understands how it works and applied the product which was specially designed for these types of situation, but it can be damaging if the practitioner doesn't pay enough of attention, if practitioners apply something which was not designed, like you shouldn't apply sunscreen immediately onto the naked skin after the microneedling or laser abrasion. Yes, sunscreen should be applied, but first of all, the skin should be protected by different types of skincare products, restoring the microbiome and reducing the skin permeability, because believe me, you don't need sunscreen in your dermis. Also, we use different type of chemical substances, enhancing the skin permeability. And now there are more than 300 studied molecules which are used in the skincare and cosmetic formulations, which can potentiate and fasten the penetration of other skin ingredients. And know what is the first and probably one of the best enhancers of these 300s? You guess what? It is the water. Water is one of the best enhancers of the penetration, not only for water-soluble ingredients, but for fat-soluble ingredients as well. Water makes about 30% of the weight of the skin surface. Our skin surface is imbibed with water. And this 30% of the weight of the water molecules onto the skin surface creates this perfectly moisturized and well-protected skin. But once you increase the amount of the water onto the skin surface, for example, you put some kind of water-based compress on your skin, or water-rich gel on your skin, or you're using the sheet masks imbibed with a water-based active gel. Immediately, it increases the amount of the water in the stratum corneum, and once this amount of the water is going higher than 90 grams on the square centimeters, doors will open. And literally everything will penetrate into the skin deeper and will penetrate into the skin easier. The water-soluble substances go first. Lipid-soluble substances will follow. So it improves the penetration for everything. But once you take off this compress, once you take off the sheet mask, once you dry off your skin, it takes about 10 to 20 minutes for the skin dry off and close the door. So why water is so good? Because it's natural, it's not irritating, it opens the door, but it closes the door naturally. But it is very important to not over-moisturize the skin. That's why most of the sheet masks, they are recommended to leave on the skin only for 20-30 minutes max. There's no need to keep masks on your skin for 1 hour or for the full night. Some people do it. Please don't do it. Because your skin should not be over-moisturized. You should not leave this door open for too long. So, wet masks, it is a great way to open the door, for example, once a week, to get most of active ingredients, to get most intense treatment to your skin. Same thing with using thick gels. They also helps to improve the skin penetration. What we can use more? Another simple reason, they are using so-called hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons, they are fatty molecules, which makes a part of the mineral oil. Squalane also built that big part from the hydrocarbons. They're creating some enhancement for the penetration of specific ingredients, not all of them. But for example, niacinamide penetrates into the skin much easier in the presence of the mineral oil. So for example, me, when I created the formulation of one of our products used in the professional setting, when I needed niacinamide going deeper and going in full and works on skin more intensely, I added a little bit of the mineral oil, not for the skin, but to open the door for the niacinamide. But in the same time, it doesn't open the door, for example, for the caffeine. Doesn't help it. But caffeine penetrates better in the presence of other oils, of other fatty acids and lipids. Also, alcohol traditionally was used as a solvent and enhancer of the penetration. Why we don't use it now? Because we understand much better what alcohol does onto the skin. It damages the skin. It dissolved our precious lipids, and also it is antibacterial. It impairs the microbiome. It disbalances the microbiome. So alcohol doesn't make a part of the skin formulation anymore. But for example, glycols, like propylene glycol, is much safer, and we still use it to improve the skin penetrations. And different types of fatty acid. Everything based on the vegetable oils helps to get more penetrations of active ingredients into the skin. And the very interesting vegetable oils actually is olive oil. Olive oils work as an icebreaker onto the skin. Everything applied in the formulation with an olive oil will travel better. But at the same time, if you apply the olive oil into your skin regularly on the daily basis, it can dissolve some particular skin lipids, creating the selective deficiency of lipids into the skin and make your skin drier, less comfortable, and very probably irritated at the end of the day. So if you're using something based on the olive oil, it's always better to use some blend of oils with olive oil inside. And if you think about using the pure olive oil for your skin, you can do it probably for the body, but still not on the daily basis. And you should take a break if you don't want to dry off your skin. So what are other enhancers? Urea, which you see a lot in the food skincare. Why? Because urea destroys these keratinocytes, dead skin cells envelopes. We will not use urea for the skin, for the moisturization, but it can be used for the thin, sun-damaged skin, for the body skin, and especially for the feet skincare, because it's so-called keratolytical. Also, we can play differently with the dynamic of lipids of the skin, using different types of chemical substances. It's probably too complicated for the podcast, but you should know about this opportunity. And we can play with terpene and terpenoids. And terpenes and terpenoids are big parts of many of essential oils. So you should understand them. Even one drop of essential oil, it is a train, bringing everything applied with an essential oil into the deep of the skin. And that's why you should avoid essential oils in the skincare if your skin is sensitive, is fragile. Essential oils can be great for the body, but they are tricky for the facial skincare, and they should be used very much controlled, as well as citruses extracts, because a lot of citruses, they contain terpenes, which are acting as enhancers. So all of them, they are used very largely in the pharmaceuticals, in the skincare. You see, we have 300 ways to increase the skin permeability chemically. We have at least 10 different ways to increase the skin permeability physically. And we have about 100 probably of small molecules used in the skincare, which can penetrate into the skin fully, deeply, and interact with skin cells in the deep layers. such as dermis. What are practical tips you should take off from all this information? If you are professional, you should know how to read the label and to find small molecules into your professional products which you're working from. For example, in the med skincare, in the professional treatments, we are using a lot of small molecules because we really care about the penetration of ingredients into the skin. We really target some deep skin layers. If you don't use gloves in this situation, at least half of the active ingredients of the skincare formulas will penetrate onto your hand skin, not in the skin of your client or patient. So please, always wear gloves, even if you don't use any injectables, even if you don't work with machines. Small molecular-sized skincare penetrates deep into the skin, so your hands should be protected. Do not steal ingredients from your client's face. For professionals, it's very important to understand the role of enhancers and to know how to identify enhancers in the formulation. And obviously, to know what kind of system can be used to enhance penetrations of ingredients of the skin or to reduce the penetration of ingredients if needed, because sometimes the skin is over-permeable. For example, skin in people with rosacea or in acne, so we try to manage the penetrations differently. If you are not a professional, but if you are a skincare lover, it's also a good thing to know how to read the label, how to read the list of ingredients, how to understand what types of ingredients penetrates into the skin deeper. And also, it is important to understand, remember, size matters, time matters, location matters. And so you should understand that you cannot use the same product for the face and eye area with the same effect. You should be careful with your night skin care, especially if you have a sensitive skin, because during the nighttime, your skin is more permeable. And you should be very careful with an exfoliating product and with different types of exfoliation. Brushing, chemical peels, retinol-based, acid-based product to avoid this unwanted irritation of the skin, and especially to avoid the potential systemic effect. So, there are simple rules. Maintain your healthy skin barrier. Keep your skin microbiome healthy. Ensure your skin is optimally moisturized and hydrated. If you introduce some new skincare in your skincare routine, introduce strong active gradually and never start at nighttime, always starts in the morning. And choose formulation that match your skin condition and not a TikTok trends. And stay with us, our podcast, The Skin Live In. If you're interested about some particular ingredient, please leave a comment. I will try to answer all your questions. Like, share, tell your friends about Med Beauty podcast, and let's continue this discussion. Thank you for joining us today on the Med Beauty podcast. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an expert skincare tip. Have a question or topic you'd like for me to cover? Send me a message at podcast@mederbeauty.com and let's keep the conversation going. Also, you can visit mederbeauty.com and discover Meder Skincare, which I created. And if you enjoyed the show, I'd love if you left a review. It helps others find the podcast and keeps us growing. Until next time, stay healthy, stay glowing, and take care of your skin.